I think the change that I see that's interesting is the amount of people that are searching to integrate something into their care and not just
Hmm.
follow what the doctor prescribed per se. So if back then we were the weird family that does other things, like today it's almost weird not to think outside of the box and not to search for what else to complement. And I think this is, just so important for patients to know that they're not alone. Most patients out there are searching for options, and that there are a lot of options out there to better their outcome. And it's important for patients to know to advocate for themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Halpert, the founder and CEO of Immunosine, and we have been embarking on a new series where we are speaking to different uh, oncologists and doctors and scientists and innovators in the space of cancer and cancer treatment. Today, joining us is Adi Hertz, the founder and CEO of Heal Navigator, a group that specializes in working with and vetting different opportunities for cancer patients around the globe to help line them up with opportunities that may work for them. It's a little bit outside the box thinking, not always, but when needed. And the focus is, as always, the patient and what might be best for them. And so I'm just very honored and excited to welcome Adi to this platform so we can talk a little bit about her experience and perspective in this space. And Adi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yes, and so we've gotten to know each other, a bit over the years. Of course, yes, you brought a contingent of your highly trained medical team and nurse navigators. You did bring them to vet Immunosine and make sure we were on the up and up and real. And I personally, I very much appreciate that. I think there needs to be more of that, more due diligence. Obviously, we're a big believer in that, but you started something here that didn't necessarily exist before when you created Heal Navigator, and so I'm a little curious, and the people watching might be curious as to what drove you to see this gap and to work so hard to fill it with this at this point thriving venture, Heal Navigator.
Yeah. So I guess like most people in this field, came from a very uh, personal story with my mom being diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And back then, was over a bit over 15 years ago, that she was told that there's not much that can be done. Like they can start chemotherapy, and that would extend her life by up to 2 years. But we all know also the price of that and how it would affect her life. And that was not very appealing. And we started researching. So we went to, second opinion and a third opinion and a fourth opinion, just kind of to learn that, yeah, this is what they have to offer. And we had to be thrown into this place of researching and all of a sudden learning that there's a parallel health system, an alternative health system that offers other things that no one told us about. It was so hard to find that information. And we had no choice of doing the digging and researching ourselves, which we did. And so, on top of everything that our family had to face through with my mom being diagnosed and the fear and everything around that, it was a full time job of researching what are some other things that are out there. And this is, I guess, where I really found the gap between so much that is out there and so little that we could discover and know about that. So that was like the initial, like, okay, there's a huge gap there. And during her cancer journey, that was an ongoing research because even when we found something, it worked for some time and then it stopped working. We had to do some more research and more research for years. We were doing this research, the entire family, and she postponed taking chemotherapy as much as she could, which was for about 6 years after she's been told that she has to start doing that. So bittersweet because she was able to extend her life by a lot of what she was given, and for the most part with a great quality of life, but still ended up taking chemotherapy and passing away a year after. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sorry to hear that. It's always
yeah,
rough. It is just always a rough, horrible situation.
it is. It is, but it also the fire that keeps me going. Like the reason behind that, I'm still thinking about what Adi of back then would have wanted to see. What could have helped?
Yeah,
And I always have her in mind whenever we do something like that. Go to different clinics, try to figure out what it is that they offer. As you mentioned, we do a lot of vetting, so it's not just finding random information online. We make sure to speak with the doctors, to speak with previous patients. Always important. You get so much information from there, and visiting those facilities ourselves. So we are able to see, to smell, to feel, to taste the food, to get the atmosphere, to speak with other team members, to know how to get there. Where's the sea? Where's the grocery? Like, what's the transportation? Like those little things that make the experience whole. So we try to do that, like twice a year with the team. And this is how we also ended up, obviously, coming to Immunoscene and meeting you. And we were very fortunate also to meet one of the patients that we sent over. And he was there at the time.
yep,
And it
I
was
remember.
to close the loop now, seeing how wonderful he's doing.
Yeah, you're right. That was the same patient who we just filmed his
Yeah.
testimonial, who, yeah, that is an interesting closed loop there. So it doesn't always work out, that well. Not in the world of cancer, as you know, but in that case, that did come together pretty well. Yeah, and I think in general, a lot of times the best inventions are born out of personal need or desire. Is you're looking for something yourself, and you realize then this doesn't exist, and um, and sometimes it seems ridiculous that it doesn't exist. And so I certainly applaud you for the efforts you've gone to creating this, because I don't imagine it was easy. Looking at the proverbial blank page and figuring out how to actually get this off the ground and get it going. I've been there myself, so I do understand. But yeah, no. So you create Heal Navigator, and the goal is to, a lot of patients, especially sick cancer patients, cannot fly around the globe doing their own due diligence at all these places. They just can't for a variety of reasons. And so you're kind of stepping in that place, and you're trying to be this independent intermediate where you can try and line patients up with where might work best for them, and kind of vice versa. And so go back to, when you started Heal Navigator and what that, version 1.0 looked like to where it is today, and just what are some of the changes and growth that you've seen over the years in this space.
Yeah, that's a good question. It was a very interesting journey, starting off as a friend of my sister was diagnosed with cancer. She reached out to us to say, "Hey, your family done all this research. Send everything you can over." And I started digging through, different files in my computer, sending it over. But it felt so ridiculous because it's like, there's so much information. Do you actually need things that I've researched 5 years ago? And I went online and searched on Google to sure enough find that yes, some things have changed, but not enough. It was still really hard to find that information. If you wanted to find a clinic, and I think still to this day, if you just go on Google and search for, alternative clinics in Mexico or Germany or, whatever, you would maybe find a list and their website, but you're not going to find reliable reviews because it's just the clinic choosing, who it is that they wish would review them. If you want to know the price, which is a huge thing for patients to even know if they can afford or even to go there. So you would call, a patient would normally probably call the clinic and ask about the price, and they would tell him, oh, we cannot say that up front. You have to share your medical files, and you have to answer this questionnaire, and then you have to hop on a call with us. So then maybe, if everything's done like super, super quick, maybe after 5, 6, 7 days, they would get the answer of, this is the cost, just for them to say, oh, okay, I can't even afford that. And that time is priceless.
Yeah.
Patients don't have that time, right? So, so this is, like, okay, this is one of the first and most important things we need to share with patients, like the list of these places, what kind of conditions they're treating, because, some do only solid tumors, just to lay out that information, reviews from patients who've been there, the prices. So just like very, very basic, we started off with like 13 clinics in Mexico, sharing information about them. And I said, okay, I'm just going to release it to the world, whatever. We were so surprised. We've published about that in a Facebook group. We got like about 100 visitors, and some people shared their feedback. Oh, you should do this, or maybe you can add this and that. We worked on some little tweaks and stuff. But then after very short time, a couple of weeks maybe, we saw people coming in through Google, and we were like page 13 of Google, which was surprising how they found us on one hand. But then thinking about myself, like 15 years ago, yeah, I would go to the 12th page of Google to find out any little bit of information that I could. I would do anything. And these people sure enough did. And start even reaching out to those clinics that we listed. And then the clinics started calling us like, who are you? What do you do? Why do people find you? And I was like, okay, something here is happening. Soon enough, we got requests from patients to say, oh, there are those clinics, but I'm in Europe. Is there anything in Germany that you can share about? Is there anything in the States? I cannot travel. What do I do? And this is kind of, how it began and how it started expanding to now, hundreds of clinics from around the world, really. So that's a long story of kind of how it started, but it was always, we were always very close to kind of hearing what the audience need.
Mm-hmm.
So we were thinking about that even during COVID, that a lot of people could not go or did not want to go or, whatnot, and was looking for remote options. And this is how we started building a team of integrative oncologists, nurse practitioners, nurses that can support patients with remote protocols that basically they can do and follow from the comfort of home. Which was, a great add-on for them. For a lot of people that cannot travel or currently going through treatments and just want to know what are some supplements, what are some dietary guidelines I could do or anything like that. So basically now we offer both, right? So we have the team that offers those remote protocols. And then we also have our navigators that help people figure out what are the options, what are those clinics. And people tell us, I can only go for 2 weeks. My budget is this and that. I'm looking for hypothermia. I'm looking for dendritic cell therapy. So we help them kind of narrow down the options just so they won't waste this time of searching to say, we visited all those places. Here's the information. Here are maybe 2, 3. We never tell them, oh, this will cure you, because who knows, unfortunately. I wish we had that information.
Yeah. You and me both.
Yeah.
Yes. I wish we could just tell people do this and you'll be cured. But
I wish.
and so
That's me. They said, but what would you do now? Now you have all this information. Which clinic would you choose? That's really hard.
Sure. I can see that. And, you mentioned before, two different almost healthcare systems or parallel pathways, kind of the mainstream and the alternative. And, I think it's important to at least put out there. I don't think either you or I necessarily disparage mainstream standard of care. I mean, there are many of good options there. There are times where a lot of times where we get patients and we recommend to them to do standard of care. There's a reason for that, and we don't. So, for example, at Immunoscene, we don't just automatically take patients. We do a medical review. We try to make sure that this is actually the right fit for that patient. And of course, there's reasons things become standard of care. And I'm not going to go into the conspiracy side of all that we could do, but these are things that, in theory, at least have gone through clinical trials, have statistics, have science, have gone through rigor to be approved. And so, if you are a mainstream person, so if you're a conspiracy person, right, you don't trust any of that. If you're a mainstream person, you tend to go the other way, right? And the alternative stuff is all bupkis. It's all pseudoscience and fake. And well, that's not true either, right? By definition, all medical advancements of the future are therefore alternative and experimental today. Like they have to start this way. And you can't just suddenly, it doesn't happen. You don't discover something in the lab and then it's standard of care tomorrow. That's never how it's going to work. And so there are a lot of groups out there, often outside of the United States with more legal medical wiggle room to possibly offer things a little sooner than certain other places. It's not mainstream yet. It's not standard care. That doesn't mean the science doesn't work. That doesn't mean it can't be helpful. Unfortunately, you also have out there a number of clinics and groups that do just prey upon desperate patients. And so that kind of brings me to an interesting point. And I don't know if you have a great answer. If you don't, it's okay. We'll cut it. But are there clinics, are there groups that have tried to get on and work with Heal Navigator that you all have ultimately refused or declined because they don't meet merit to be included in this?
Absolutely. So some clinics, and going back to the beginning, we were like, okay, this is working. A lot of patients are needing that information. I sent out an email to a bunch of more clinics I wanted to add. And you see that. So some are like, yes, thank you, trying to get the word out there. People that come with the passion of helping other patients. And it's like, oh, yes, let's team up and think about how to get that to patients. Whereas some are like, they don't want that because they know that we then ask for patients to share reviews and they're unable to edit that, good or bad. We post anything. They did not like that. Some did not like that. So that was, clinics that were like, take me off the platform. And those were like, nope, the reviews are staying out there. Like, we're not taking them. We're not taking that down. We're obviously not going to, we're going to share that information. So if a patient would specifically ask me about a clinic that got some really bad reputation reviews, I would advise you to read the reviews that we got and think if that's a good decision, for yourself. There were a couple of clinics that we heard, and and it's never about the outcomes, because outcomes can vary. Unfortunately, even the best clinics sometimes doesn't have the best results, and this is what it is with stage 4 cancer patients. Is mostly what we get. But if the patients also felt that it was like a click and bite kind of thing, oh, start with a 20,000 and then you have to add another 20,000 and then add another, something like that, something dishonest about what was promised in the protocol and what they received. Or maybe sometimes after they go back home, the clinic kind of just stops responding or things like that. So yes, this is definitely clinics
Yeah,
that
no,
we.
that is great. I mean, I think people obviously everyone cares about outcomes, but none of us are God, right? Like we can't necessarily guarantee or control that,
Yeah.
but of course we can control how we treat patients, how honest we are, how ethical we are. And so I think that's actually a good thing to point out, it's right. If you're a clinic and all you do is treat people with stage 2, skin cancer versus another clinic that may have a much better science, but treats stage 4 and out of options, yeah, the stats are going to be better at the stage 2 clinic, even if they have a lesser science, right? So, right, it's tough. Sometimes I don't say apples and oranges, but sometimes it is tough to compare because, well, hold on, if this is a clinic taking the worst of the worst situations, yeah, the numbers are going to be down, but that you have to compare it fairly to what would those numbers be for this population of patients if they didn't do this clinic. And if the answer is, oh, it'd be much worse, then this is a good opportunity, provided, of course, the clinic is the group is ethical. It really boils down to that. It really just boils down to ethics, but
Yeah.
you and I have both seen a lot, so it's not always a given. Um, so tell me a little bit, as we, and again, I appreciate the time, and I won't take too much of it, but how does a patient go about working with Heal Navigator? How do you all, um, do they need to pay up front to have access to the platform? Is there a sign up sheet? Like how does it work? How can a patient come find you all and work with you all so they can find out more about some of these different clinics in different parts of the world that may be a good fit for them?
Yeah. So to work with Heal Navigator, because I remember what it is to be from the patient side, and the money just goes everywhere. We never charge patients for our services. So a patient would usually just go on Heal Navigator website. Um, and just ask to speak with an advisor. We usually ask some questions so we're better prepared for this conversation. The type of cancer, roughly around, what's your budget, what's your time limit that you can go, where you're thinking about traveling. Is Mexico an option? Is Germany an option? You prefer to stay in the States or whatnot? And then we go on initially a 30-minute call with them, with one of the team members that has visited those clinics, and
Mm-hmm.
can share some more information and help them narrow down the options. We usually then ask them, would you like us to connect you with those clinics? A lot of the clinics that we work with also offer a free call with the clinic or with one of the medical doctors from the clinic, to help them and figure out what it is, the protocol that you offer, what kind of success do you have with my type of diagnosis, or any question that they have about availability and timeline and budget and whatnot. So we basically just really try to shorten their research time. Then, as needed, we touch base with them again, like, what did you think? What are some questions do you have? Connect them with previous patients. This is something super important because, like, okay, we know you've been there. We spoke with a doctor. It all seems promising, but I want to know some more from someone who's been in my shoes. So we always try also to connect with some past patients that we've been in touch with, and hopefully had, good review to share with any prospective patient as well. So we try to keep it, simple, very to the point. And it's always it's always fun to see the connections that are made. So every time we travel and we see patients, it's always like very warm, and they're
Mm-hmm.
always thankful. So that's the best part.
Yeah, awesome. And so they just have to go to healnavigator.com to get started.
Yep.
Pretty
Simple as that.
simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, cancer's complicated enough. So if this can be simple, then I'm sure the patients would appreciate that. So
Agree. Yes.
that is great. All right. Well, as we kind of wrap up here before we sign off, is there anything else that that we missed that you really would like to discuss or platform on at this time?
I think I think a change that I see that's interesting is the amount of people that are searching to integrate something into their care and not just
Hmm.
follow what the doctor prescribed per se. So if back then we were the weird family that does other things, but today it's almost weird not to think outside of the box and not to search for what else to complement. And I think this is, just so important for patients to know that they're not alone. Most patients out there are searching for options, and that there are a lot of options out there to better their outcome. And it's important for patients to know to advocate for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, could not have said that better myself. So, well, you're doing great work. You've put good out in the world. You're helping patients who really need it. And I'm excited to see what the future holds as you guys keep building up your robust platform and hiring more very phenomenal people to help advise these patients to the next steps. When you're dealing with the, yeah, we're normally talking about advanced cancer, not necessarily the stage ones. They're, maybe they have some better shots, but when you're talking about advanced cancer, there's almost always something else you can do. And if you're a patient, and everyone has this choice, right? If you don't want to fight and you're at peace with what comes, by all means, like, that is perfectly reasonable. But if you want to fight and you're looking for options to improve your odds and give yourself every chance that you can to legitimately overcome this cancer and move on with your life, then there are options out there. And you guys at Heal Navigator provide a lot of assistance and those opportunities. And sometimes sometimes those patients do come our way to Immunosine, but a lot of times they don't. And the point of this, we're good with that. Like, not every patient is a fit for Immunosine. We wouldn't want to be inundated with patients that are not fits for us. And so I respect that you all have those boundaries and that you all put in that legwork to really try and line patients up correctly. So, Adi, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. For everyone listening to this, I hope there was at least a couple useful tidbits. If you're looking for ways to further engage and fight back against cancer, please go visit their site at Heal Navigator. Of course, you can visit us at immunosine.com to see more about what we do. And I think we're in this together, and that we just want to help as many patients as we can. So hope everyone has a great day.